Well, joining us now from Westminster is the Conservative MP Zac Goldsmith, who has advised David Cameron on environmental issues and is a member of the Environmental Audit Committee. Zac Goldsmith, what do you make of this decision, apparently, to stick to the original proposal?
Well, look, I've heard that from your programme only, and so I'm assuming that I'm hoping it's rumours.
I'm hoping it's true myself. Otherwise, we should sack our political editor, frankly.
Well, I will leave that skirmish to the News 19. I think that the planning system needs reform. I don't think anyone doubts that, including National Trust, CPRE and so on. It is a bureaucratic, cumbersome, it's expensive for developers, it's exhausting for communities trying to fight off developments. No one seems really to win. But I think when government ministers, and we've had one or two, talk about the planning system as something, as a tool that should be used to promote economic growth, I think they're missing something very important. The problem with the planning system is not that it's blocking development. It's not blocking development. There are 250,000 plots available to be built in the southeast of England alone. There are 31,000 acres of brownfield land waiting to be developed, and in all, roughly 90% of applications go through. So the problem is not that it's blocking development. The problem is that it's a very bureaucratic and lengthy system. A decision that should take 2 or 3 weeks might end up taking months, even years. That's the problem. That's the problem they should be addressing. But if you talk about planning being used as a tool to promote economic growth, that sounds to me like a blank cheque for developers, and that's a real problem.
If you're a person without a job, it's pretty hard to take from a multi-millionaire, that sort of advice, though, isn't it?
But what advice?
The advice that you've just given, that it's nothing to do with development. Other people have decided it is something to do with development and economic growth.
But I'm not giving any advice. I'm simply saying that the problem with the planning system now is not that that it's blocking development. I'd like to see lots of developments happen around the country. We've got a real housing crisis. But ripping up the planning system as it currently is not going to lead to more development. It might mean a few developers make a lot more money, but it's not going to lead to a net increase in economic growth or development. There are other factors at play here. The fact that people can't get mortgages, the fact that the finance doesn't exist. That's what's impeding development, not the planning system. And it's not even a matter of opinion. If you look at the data, I think you'd have to agree it's a matter of fact. So I'm not giving anyone any advice. I'm simply saying that the planning system should not be used as a tool to promote development, because I think that misses the point.
But those safeguards of local plans and green belts, they'll still be there.
Yeah, I think, look, I don't know what the final draft's going to look like. I haven't seen it. And I assume that protection for national parks and green belt and so on will exist. But those aren't the only things that matter to communities. We need to, and I think most communities want to protect things that aren't necessarily of immense natural value, but green spaces, their community, effectively. There are areas of the countryside which may not be hugely rich in biodiversity, but which are really important to the communities that live in and around them. And I think the planning system needs to protect what matters to people, not just national parks and biodiversity hotspots. It's got to go beyond that. And I think what was lacking from the original draft, the first draft, which upset a lot of people, was one, a very clear bias in favour of developing brownfield land first. I hope that's got back into the script. Also, a very clear definition of what we mean by sustainable development. If we're going to have a presumption in favour of sustainable development, we need to know what sustainability looks like. What does the government believe sustainability actually amounts to? These are things which I think need to be addressed. I still hope that the second draft will answer these questions. I think the government will have a real headache if they haven't. I think there are millions of people around the country who are very worried, and they're right to be worried, because whatever we bring in, whatever reforms are brought in, will have lasting legacy. They'll extend well beyond this generation into the next and the one after that. So it's really important that we get it right.
Zac Goldsmith, thanks very much. Thank you.